All right, we're on page 3 of the study guide. In number 27, label the diagram and show all work. So in 27, find the measure of angle JIC if the measure of angle JIC equals 4x minus 6. So I'm just going to label this 4x minus 6. The measure of angle JIH equals 17x plus 1. I'm going to show this by saying this angle out here is 17x, plus 1. And the measure of angle CIH is 111 degrees. So this is just some angle addition. We are trying to find a particular angle measure, but anytime you see this much algebra, we're going to have to find the measure of x first. So remember, we're going to add the small angles together. So I might think of this, I'm going to add JIC. So I'm going to add the measure of angle JIC to CIH, measure of angle CIH. And when I add those two, I get the entire angle, which is JIH. So the measure of angle JIH. All right, so now I'm going to substitute the algebra in. So that's 4x minus 6 plus 111 equals 17x plus 1. All right, now we're just living in algebra. I'm going to combine my like terms over here. So negative 6 plus 111 is the same as 111 minus 6, so 105. So I'm going to write that as 4x plus 105. You're welcome to use a calculator too. I probably should. 17x plus 1 stays the same. I'm going to subtract my 4x from both sides. So 105 equals 13x plus 1. Then I'm going to subtract 1 from each side. So now I'm at 104 equals 13x. And I sure hope 104 is divisible by 13. I'm going to borrow a calculator real fast and let's see. So 104 divided by 13 is 8. All right, so we'll divide both sides by 13. X equals 8. Now we've done a lot of math, but we still don't know the answer because the question didn't say find x. It said find the measure of JIC. So now we just substitute that 8 back in. 4 times 8 minus 6, because that's what we have for the measure of JIC. 4 times 8 is 32. And 32 minus 6 is 20. Oh, what is that? 26? 26. All right, that's our final answer. Sorry, I didn't leave a lot of space there for that question. All right, 28, solve for x and find the length of segment FE, show all work. So this one's a little easier. I'm gonna add FE plus ED, and that's gonna be the entire segment FD. All right, so if FE is x plus 1, ED is 8, and then FD, we're going to substitute in 4x. Combine my like terms, so this becomes x plus 9 equals 4x. And then now I already have a constant term over here. I'm going to subtract x from both sides to get my variable terms on the same side. So 9 equals 3x. Divide both sides by 3. 3 is the value of x. All right, so that's x. We still have to substitute it back in to find FE. If FE is x plus 1, then it's just 3 plus 1, which is 4. All right. Question 29, sketch and label a diagram to solve. Points A, B, and C are collinear. Point B is between A and C. Start there. So they're on the same line. I'm gonna call this B, A, C. I don't really know which segment is larger, but that's okay. It's just a sketch. Let's see. AC is 30x plus 30. And BC is 29. And AB is negative 20 plus 37x. All right, so now that we have our picture, this shouldn't be too hard. I know that if I add segment AB to segment BC, I'm going to get segment AC. So if I substitute this in, AB is negative 20 plus 37x, BC is 29, and AC is 30x plus 30. All right, so I'll combine my like terms on the left. Negative 20 plus positive 29 leaves us with 9. So 37x plus 9 equals 30x plus 30. I'm going to subtract 30x from both sides. I like having a positive coefficient for x when I can control that. I'm going to rewrite this over here. All right, so 37x minus 30 is 7x. I still have my plus 9, and now that's going to equal 30. I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. So 7x equals 21, and divide both sides by 7, so x equals 3. Let's see, it says sketch and label a diagram to solve, find x and the length of AC. So the last thing I have to do is figure out how long that entire segment is. I'm just gonna do that in a separate color since I'm using so much space. I'm gonna come over here to the left. So if AC is 30x plus 30, I just substitute 3 in for x. So 30 times 3 plus 30. 30 times 3 is 90. 90 plus 30 is 120. So the length of AC is 120 units. All right, let's see. 30 through 32, we are just going to identify these as linear pairs, vertical angles, or adjacent angles. So if I look at where angles A and B are, by definition, these are vertical angles. And remember that vertical angles are congruent. If I look in number 31 at where A and B are located, these are adjacent angles, but a better name for them is complementary, or to even be the best, we could say that they are complementary and adjacent. So we know they're adjacent because they share a vertex and ray. They're complementary because if this is 90 degrees, we can assume that's a straight line. That must be 90, so that adds up to 180. And then lastly in 32, if I look at angles A and B, they are adjacent and they're supplementary. And when that happens, when like the measure from here to here is 180, we call those angles a linear pair. Okay, 33 through 35. Man, this side, it takes a little longer than the others. In number 33, we're finding the midpoint of the line segment. So if we do this on the graph, the way I like to do it is I like to actually make a right triangle. So if I look at this segment, to get to the other one, if I trace my path just in the direction of like just my x, how my x coordinates change, I'm going from -4 over to +5. So that's a change from -4 to +5. That's going to be a change of 9. I'm going to just put a 9 down there. And then I'm going up from -1 up to 3. So if I'm trying to find the midpoint, I need to cut these two lengths in half. Oops, sorry, that should be 4 right there. From -1 up to 3 is a change of 4. So if I go down 2, if I break this in half so it's 2 and 2 instead of 4, I'm going to move over this way. And then when I divide 9 by 2, that's going to be 4.5. So I'm going to go over 1, 2, 3, 4, and then my midpoint is going to be right here at the half. So when I go to write that as an ordered pair, here's my origin of the axes. I'm going over 1/2 in the x direction and up 1 in the y direction. So 1/2, 1 would be my midpoint. All right, in 34, you could use the midpoint formula or the table method. I'm going to use the table method. So remember, these are each just points. So they each have an x and a y value. So if I just plug them in a table, an xy table, I have negative 3.1 comma negative 2.8. My midpoint will be in the middle. And then I have negative 4.92 and negative 3.3. I'm definitely going to use a calculator for this. Oops, sorry. So if I want to find the difference of these two numbers, I could do negative 3.3 minus negative 2.8. And when I do that, I get that that's a difference of negative 1/2. So if I'm at negative 2.8 on the number line, I am decreasing by negative 1/2 or negative 0.5 since we're using decimals. Same over here. I'm going to subtract negative 4.92 minus negative 3.1. And my x values are decreasing because they're getting more negative. So my change is negative. They're decreasing by 1.82 units. And I know to find the midpoint, I just need really to change by half of this distance. So I know half of negative 0.5. Half of that is negative 2.5. Negative 0.25. So I'm going to subtract, I'm going to do negative 2.8 minus 0.25. Would help if I could make sense. And when I do that, I get negative 3.05. Over here, I just want to divide this by 2, so negative 1.82. I'm using my calculator off the screen. When I divide that by 2, I get negative 0.91. So I want to do negative 3.1 minus 0.91. I'm decreasing. So I get negative 4.01. So that is my midpoint, negative 4.01, comma, negative 3.05. Just got to be careful with the signs on that one. All right, and then 35, going back to some nicer numbers, we are finding the other endpoint of a segment with the given endpoint and midpoint. I love the table method for this. So if I think about plugging these points into a table, I have an endpoint, a midpoint, and I'm going to find the other endpoint. So if my endpoint is at 2, 5, my midpoint is at 5, 1. Instead of cutting the change in half, I'm just going to repeat the change. So from 5 to 1, I'm decreasing by 4. I'm going to decrease by 4 again to reach the other endpoint. So 1 minus 4 is negative 3. From 2 to 5, I'm increasing by 3. I'm going to do that again. 5 plus 3 is 8. So my other endpoint is at 8, negative 3. All right, we're almost done. One last page, and it's in the last video.